Let's do this thing. Let's do this thing.
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need and not what you don't. Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
Yeah, let's get this show on the road. And before we do anything, it says you're live on YouTube. I just got a notification. Let's see if they got the card. Yeah, it's there. And obviously I'm going to quit out of mail. I don't want it to eat up my CPU. And of course,
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
that's the man with the microphone. And the title card, as you've seen, is House. And the question is, well, first of all, the question is, the title of the show is, Where's House When You Need Him? Today is August 20th. In the calendar year 2021, it's a Friday TGIF, I guess, I reckon, for some people. For other people, it's just another day, like Paul McCartney would say. And for other people yet, it might be...
Your papers, please.
You know, and then again, for clowns like me, it's...
Hello. 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 Hello.
Yeah, hello, folks. Hello, I'm back. I was off yesterday because I went to the hospital to get some more tests. And so that's why this title card, Where's House, the title Where's House, and the picture House, that scene. I don't know if anybody used to watch House. I watched it in reruns. I don't know if I watched it live. It says I'm getting no data right now. Yeah, excellent connection now. I don't know, it's weird. But anyway, unless they were cutting out the house image, let's put that up again, see if they're playing games with me with that. They shouldn't. But I don't think I watched the the actual series when it, nightly. But it was one of those early days, this is, 10 years ago, that I did binge watch. That was one of my go-to things when I would just wind down at the end of the day. I'd put a couple episodes on, so those channels used to have those marathons, they called them then. Now they call it binge watching, but it used to be called marathon, right? House Marathon, Star Trek Marathon, Supernatural Marathon. I used to watch that in the morning. I used to be on in the mornings. And if I look weird, I took some drug about, hour or so ago, maybe 2 hours ago. Supposedly last 6 hours, so it should hopefully take me through the show. Called Meclizin, which is some kind of anti-dizzy or antivert, as needed for dizziness. But I wasn't really dizzy. I just felt like I was going to pass out. The local hospital there was no room at the inn, so they had to drive me a half hour away at like 4 a.m. in the morning yesterday. That's why I didn't get a chance to do a show. I got back, but I didn't get back till like noon. And of course, that was the 19th, and previously it was 7/29, end of July. So 20 days, because July just, forget what, April, June, and November, 30 days has September. Yeah, right. 20 days ago, I went for, what did I go for? Pain. indication. What did they say? I don't know. So before they did the CT scan of the abdomen, yesterday they checked the head out, found nothing. Right. Redid the blood work like 2 or 3 times. And nothing. And, you know, like trying to explain this thing, and I asked a million questions, you know. And so it's like, it's just kind of strange, man. So, I mean, I slept better last night. But apparently, I don't know, you know, my major organs are functioning properly. My blood work is supposedly, allegedly good. And the views inside are not showing anything. So what is it? So that's why I call this the where's house when you need them. It's like the medical profession, you know. This is what, you know. This will probably be more of a rant of a show. It's hot in here again too, man. I don't have to turn the air conditioner on. I have the back window open, so it will be an ordeal. I'd have to go to the back, close that window because I'm not going to throw air conditioning out. Turn this thing on. Who knows? Maybe I got Legionnaire's disease, but that would have shown up. They would have figured that out. Comes from air conditioners or something. I always put Lysol on my air conditioning anyway, like where the intake and the outtake before I turn them on, or sometimes the day before even, so that there should be nothing in there that causing a problem. Well, anyway, before we get into that, let's just look at the weather, and I guess we'll call this weekend weather. Weekend weather. I'm going to bring up a map, and then we'll also just talk about this mid-Atlantic stuff. Anyway, so here's the map for... Why is it giving me the map for Thursday instead of Friday? I swear it said Friday on it. Oh, issued Thursday. But, let's see. Valid to 8 a.m. Friday. Wow. Sorry about that. Being away, apparently the NOAA people and the National Weather Service are still sleeping. Because I also couldn't find a temperature update at all. And since I didn't show you this yesterday, I'll show it to you now. So basically, it's looking like we're still going to have pretty much rain and a chance of thunderstorms across a better part of the U.S. with some severe storms out in Nebraska, southern South Dakota, whatnot. They may be all moving east, I would imagine, if this is a day old. The same with that little swath of heavy rain, flash flooding possible might be actually in D.C. or Philly today. I don't know. I'm taking a guess. Looks like... Fred's all much, gone out to sea. That was the one that brought us a lot of mess here. My attic was filled with water. I even asked the guy, I said, I got this leaky attic, and I was up there spraying Lysol and this, that, the other. I said, could I possibly be affected by spores? Or he goes, no. What, So, the very loose... just verbal thing, last thing the doctor said is, oh, maybe it's some inner ear thing or something like that. But I don't really, I don't know. I don't necessarily buy into that. But what can you do? Anyway, so take a quick look at that. You got it? Okay, that's it. Now, we're still in the weather thing, so I'm going to just tell you what it's like in the mid-Atlantic states because I can't really go much further than that. It's currently 73 degrees, 70 degrees outside my window. That's why it's getting to get hot here. Because it was supposed to be 64. That's why I opened the back window. But 70, it's like, man, I like, 68 is like room temperature. 70 is above room temperature, and I'm wearing a shirt over a shirt. Looks like it's going to get up to 84 degrees today. Saturday is going to be 82 degrees, and Sunday 84, Monday 84, and Tuesday, dig this, 88. The only chance of thunderstorms is a 50% chance tomorrow, and the rest is like sunny. Next Tuesday, sunny 88. They'll do some geoengineering on that one. Anyway, that's a quick look at your weekend weather. And sorry, it isn't thorough. You're dealing with a guy who's basically on an anti-dizzy drug or something. So if I drop off, if I pull a Tom Green passed out on one of his live. A long time. This was months ago. This was before I think he went on his original journey. In the van with his dog. Travels with Charlie, and then of course now he's bought some land up in, is it Canada or someplace like that? I think it might be Canada, or pretty sure, or something like that. I don't know. Bought this giant land, but yeah, he passed out, but he just passed out because he was tired. But the webcast continued. That's the funny part. The show must go on. So yeah, I've got this. I'm gonna have to turn the air conditioner on. And I hate when I sit down and I get into this thing, and then there I go again. So it's a pain, But what am I supposed to do? Where's my? I got to give you some music to do these deeds by. Let's see. How about listen to a little bit of Virtual Cage? Oh no, we can listen to the weather. I'll be back. I got to close a window and turn the air conditioner on. I'll be right back.
There's something wrong with the weather. And it's not just about what they tell us in the news. There's no doubt that the climate is changing. But it's not in the way they've been harping about ad nauseum. The jet stream looks like a roller coaster, and the storm tracks are behaving erratically. Our star is heading to a grand solar minimum, and the Earth's magnetic field is weakening. We're seeing more volcanic activity and earthquakes, and the animals and insects are acting weird.
I'm going to cut that song off, but I'll get a copyright thing for it anyway. But I wrote that song 2 years ago, and practically everything in there is true. All about the magnetic field, earthquakes, volcanic activity, and magnetic field, all that shit. If I didn't say magnetic field twice. It's being hard to navigate, But at least I can navigate today. Yesterday it was like, let's see if I could do this. Which arm is this? This one's there. This one has to be brought back. Oh, it's behind the girl. And I was like, holding on to the walls as you walk. Yeah, I know. It's weird. This is a brutally honest show. It always has been, right? Make no pretensions that it isn't. It's the truth at 30 frames per second. Fix my chair. Pour some more hot in the coffee, as they call it. Don't really need the coffee necessarily. I mean, I'm like, I'm up, had a bowel movement, I say it's a brutally honest show. And the coffee's already like not hot, you know? Which is very disappointing, you know? I guess I prepared it too early or something like that. I don't know. It's ridiculous. So let's be a little bit lively somehow.
Really funny. Really funny.
Okay.
All right. And I forgot to tell you. Good morning. Yeah, here we go again. Now that the air conditioner's on and I'm back and I've explained my whereabouts for the past 36 hours, let's talk about this brutal honesty thing. Now, the medical profession, man. So, I've been dealing with... I first went to the doctor... I had my regular appointment in early July. I had 2 different regular appointments. As you get older, yeah, because I had a specialist and then this regular doctor who's like retiring now. In fact, somebody at this other hospital said, "Who's your doctor?" And I said the name, and they said, "Is he still around?" I mean, he doesn't look that old, but I guess he is older than I thought. Anyway, the girl is like interfering with my head, like the natural place I want to put my chair. But otherwise, the microphone isn't going to be in the right place, and my face is going, you know. I don't need any kind of aggravation anymore. It's bad enough I got a leaky roof, a crazy neighbor, bugs, and all kinds of other stuff, and a health problem. So anyway, so this happens from time to time, you know, and you hope you survive, and sometimes you do survive, some people don't. But the thing about it is that the medical profession, you know, they're so good. Well, just look how they flip-flop on all this thing, you know, that you can't talk about or anything. And I don't have that, you know. I've been, like, checked. I've been in, like, you know, all over that. So it's not that. So, the medical profession, to try to see if I can, you know, because my brain, probably have brain fog on top of everything else. I know my eyes look like a little bit glassy almost, I think. It's hard to say. That's or dilated. That might be because of the drug. The drug. So, yeah, you know, they're flip-flopping on this other thing, telling people 1,000,001 different stories and stuff. But in the meantime, you know, you have the CDC and all these people, you know, issuing these things which are public, you know, available for public viewing and download, causes of death and all these diseases and all this treatments and stuff. And you go into these hospitals. Like, for example, the hospital here, like I was saying earlier, was closed. So I'm in this ambulance, and I have to be in this ambulance. It's like the world's bumpiest ride while I'm feeling like crap. They're trying to put a needle in my arm or something like that. And, you know, and the thing's going by. You know what I mean? In fact, I haven't even looked down to see what kind of damage they did. It looks worse on the side where they took blood than it does where they put the, you know, IV thing, which I never got an IV. I wish I would have. They should have. See, if they would have sent me to my local hospital, they would have at least, like, probably put some kind of super drip in me or something like that, at least, would think. You know, some generic kill-all. I don't know. It's weird. And then I had to, like, use a favor, have somebody, you know, pick up these pills for me. You know, have a friend pick up pills for me. Which he had just gotten back from his vacation with his family, and I know it was a hassle for him to do. And I felt really uncomfortable about it. Yeah. So anyway, I took one of the things and, they seem to be helping a little bit. In other words, I could walk up and down the stairs. I could walk. I could stand here. I could talk. Of course, I could talk yesterday, too. That wasn't a thing. It's just that,
You're now in a different continuum than the world you're used to.
But the thing is, they really don't know what they're doing. And that's why I say, my whole idea with this house thing is the title card, because it's certainly not clickbait at all. And that's a promo picture. I don't know if you remember that episode. House goes into the office of that, the younger looking guy, his buddy, wasn't on the team, but was at the hospital. The guy used to always go to his office. I forget, I don't remember the names. This was like 10 years ago when I was watching those reruns, I think. And the other guy, this guy I can't remember the name of, is sitting there with like a napkin or handkerchief, and he's cleaning. You know how you take an apple and you like just wipe it off to get that, sometimes they wax those apples or whatever the hell they do with them. But anyways, the guy's like, through this whole conversation he's having with House, he's just going over with a napkin, paper towel, or whatever the heck it was, this apple. He's cleaning this apple that he's going to have for lunch. And House they're talking about something, and he's giving House some advice. And then at the end of the scene, because it would be what you would call a bit, in comedy. But it was like presented as if, it was just like the show, and it was a scene in the show, and they were talking about things that were progressing, whatever the show was about. And so at the end of the bit, House grabs the apple from the guy's hand after he spent this like the last 5 minutes like shining and cleaning it, and takes a bite out of it. And that's, that was, I guess they realized that was a classic bit too. Anyway, that's where that photo comes from. That's a promo piece, which technically you're, are fair game, fair usage. Especially since I told you the story about it and promoting it. And I've been tempted to watch House reruns. I think they are on either Amazon Prime or I don't know what the other one is. Netflix. I think I got Netflix now for a month because I wanted to watch some series. What was I watching? I forget what that is too because I've got brain fog probably. But the first Star Trek movie, I don't think I ever saw that before. I'm watching it thinking, oh man, you must have seen this so long ago. Not the first Star Trek movie, the one bad robot first Star Trek movie, not the new, the first of the new series, and the one where they were in the academy and all of that. And I could have sworn I saw all the newer Star Trek movies. Like I say, post Picard. And then, of course, I've eventually seen Picard. But I hadn't seen this one. And this was, like I say, the bad robot guy. Forget his name. Like I say, don't count on my mind. I see people probably coming on and off because they see the House picture. So I'll probably get a potential of higher views because somebody wants to see House. But I'm trying to give House as an example. I think this is a really good example, this card. And not just telling you about that bit where this image comes from. But the idea of where the House's team, they would get this, they'd have a patient like me, right? It's some guy coming in. And they'd say, look, this guy is presenting such and such symptoms. We've tried this, we've done that, we've done this. And then they would all work on it. And eventually at the end, House would figure it out, right? But, the thing about that show, and, I guess it was good for the medical profession and good for doctors. But the problem is that's not the way it really works. You know, it's not. There aren't many houses out there. You know, now I have a specialist doctor that I've dealt with because as I've said before, they're brutally honest show. You know, I've had prostate cancer and I had a radical prostatectomy. So the surgeon that performed that, who I still see, and I'm clear, you know, my PSAs have been clean for the past year and a half, you know, knock on wood. Of course, getting these 2 CT scans, you know, and getting more doses of radiation isn't exactly something I really wish I didn't want them to do it. And I could have opted out of the one. It's not like they force you. You know, you could opt out, especially the head one. She's going, well, if you don't want to get it, you know. I'm saying, well, you know, I can't stand. I can't walk. So something's going on in my head, you know. But see, there was nobody there, and these doctors were like, nobody there to say, wait a second, let's try this, or let's check him for that. You see what I'm getting at? And so where's house when you need them? And like a house type of team. And it's not like I don't have good health insurance or anything like that, you know. I've got the full ride, so to speak. You know, I was able to get, like I say, major surgery a year and a half ago. But this is totally unrelated to that because this is different. So I don't know. I mean, and it's the same way they treat this other thing that's affecting, you know, the never-ending story, right? You know, where's the house team in dealing with that with patients? Excuse me. They're not there. Like I say, you call an ambulance. Because I've got coverage for that, and it was 4 a.m, so I wasn't about to wake up some friend. I live alone, me and my cat. My poor cat's like confused as hell. The birds never got fed yesterday, like, you know, out in the backyard, that is, the wild birds, but they found food, I'm sure. Today I'll give them a feast. But, so 4 a.m, and they go, well, where do you want to go? I go, well, the hospital. I got, you know, got this, you know, whatever. I can't stand up. I mean, I'm like, feel like I'm gonna, you know, keel over. And they go, well, the local, you know, whatever the local hospital's name is not taking anybody in. They're filled or something. And you got a choice of these 2 places, both of which were like a half hour away or something like that. One I think was a little bit further. The one I would preferred to have gone to was even long further. And at this point, preferential wasn't important. Treatment was important. Dealing with this thing, you know, get me somewhere, you know, where I could get an IV. What the heck is wrong with frickin'? Somebody come in my house and fuck the microphone up? Sorry for the F word. I want to get comfortable, and I want to keep the girl up. I'm starting to lose my temper because of this frustration today. I killed a bug on my counter. What the heck? It's like a lady next door. She burning garbage, burning plastic bags and stuff, all this kind of stuff. Probably forced all this weird shit out of her house into my house or something. You know, I mean, they say that happens. The only reason I've been wearing a mask lately is because I've been spraying bug spray and Lysol. But again, this ER doctor said, well, I don't think there's anything like, you know, that's not what it is. So anyway, so all these people, so I was talking to the driver finally when I came home because I got one of these vans, you know, medical van transports, which my insurance covers that too, which is great. Free ride. And this was some talkative guy, Sometimes you get somebody who just talks nonstop, which is good because it's better if you got to sit in a van for a half hour getting a ride back. You might as well have somebody keeping you occupied. And so he was talking and we were talking about this idea that all these people are sitting home, and they started this whole new fear thing going on the media, about this, the latest thing, thing of the thing. And so everybody's running to the hospital, if they've got the sniffles. And so people like me, right, are being, just pushed aside. So you can't get treatment. And I noticed my doctor, like I say, I have a doctor next door, and he's like working 1 day a week, and they've been closed for like a week or two. It's like I don't think they're open because I don't think they want to deal with all these crybabies coming in. It's like they're probably old enough, may have enough money in the bank and all that kind of stuff, near retirement, and they're like, I don't want all these people. I don't want to just deal with all these people, right? It's like my title show of the last show I did, Same Old, Same Old. So I understand from the perspective of medical professionals and the institutions themselves and stuff. But what I'm getting at is that, and maybe I shouldn't say so much, where's house when you need them. It's just that house is being sidetracked if you do have hospitals where you have the house and a house type of staff. And I don't know if you do, though, All I know is when I went a year and a half ago, I was treated well and I had a good staff. But there was some old lady who was in the van when the guy picked me up, and she was sitting in the back. In the back, they put people who have like wheelchairs or something. And she was like cursing out the hospital that I wanted to go to as if it was, living hell or something. And I was saying, and I didn't want to get into an argument. I never even saw her because I was in the front seat and she was behind me. They dropped her off first. She was closer to where I was being driven from. And I was thinking, that sounds like a completely different place. But then again, I realized that when I went in there for my operation was January 2020, just before all the craziness began. When hospitals were just hospitals and they treated people for, different diseases or different things instead of having some major thing come to the fore, right? And it become the national obsession and the obsession of the medical profession. I mean, didn't you remember all these dancing nurses and all that stuff? Like, I think everybody just went frickin' wacky. And, they're as bad as like McDonald's is offering, $500 sign-on bonuses. We talked about that. And other companies are offering even more. I'll have to get up at some point and turn the air conditioner off because the thing is, this is a small room, and that thing makes this, this is starting to feel like it was in the hospital. I was freezing, I had to get an extra blanket while I was laying there waiting for my test results. But whatever I was saying, lost my. I lose my train of thought so easily, but now with this stuff, it's worse. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that, it just drove everybody mad. And so, people don't know what to do. I was talking about sign-on bonuses. That's it. At least I know it comes to me. I had a CT scan. I don't have, my brain isn't Swiss cheese. I don't have Alzheimer's or dementia or anything like that. Early onset of that. At least it didn't show up in any kind of in a scan, brain scan. Looks like it's a solid jello mold up there, at least before they irradiated it and turned me into a superhero. Right? Yeah. But, yeah, so this guy, this woman's daughter, she worked as a nurse, and then, this is the story I'm just relating to. This is Free Flow of Consciousness show. But it's all based on, what I'm talking about. I'm sure there's interest here because we all deal with this stuff. And if you don't, you should pay attention because you will deal with this stuff. This is part of human life, man. With every year, the older you get, once you get over the, like I say, it starts at right around age 40 is when you suddenly realize that you're squinting to read shit, right? And if you don't get like reading glasses or go to the eye doctor and get glasses, like these things I have on, I never wore glasses because I was like, if anything, I was farsighted. So I never had glasses. But these are prescription reading glasses, and I use them. So you look at my face, if you saw me on the street, not wearing a hat and some Hawaiian or a flowery weird shirt, you probably wouldn't even know what I look like. Plus, you can't even see my soul patch, So you probably wouldn't even, people watch this show wouldn't even know who I was. But it starts at age 40-ish, sometime around that time, where just about everybody ends up where your eyes start going. So at the very least, you got to go to some store and get yourself a pair of reading glasses in order if you want to read the fine print on the bottle of something. Because everything's so super fine. I mean, here's like some gum. Look at this. Let's just hold this up. I mean, look at it. Now this stuff, I guess there might be a regulation that stuff has to be a certain size, so at least you could read the nutrition facts, so to speak. But look at the ingredients. You got to have reading glasses to see that. And that's being like me trying to magnify it on a screen. So I can't look at all these things and push these different buttons and to do this because it's, that's the point size of the type is like that big on this thing. It's the same with the chat and stuff like that. The way this is set up, I have the chat is hidden by this window. In order for me to do all this neater stuff that I wasn't able to do, 6 months ago, you got to admit the production of the show's, pretty well, has gotten a hell of a lot better, right? And I just saw this one. This is a classic.
Hey, Tony, this is Jamie. Hey, we need to have you pick up a menu and do the revisions. Their prices aren't right on the internet. If you're still alive. Let me know.
If you're still alive is the operative word there. Yeah, I'm still alive so far, man. So what I was saying was, this lady in the back was saying her daughter was a nurse, was retired, but then before she retired, she went to the ER, and they were offering, somebody was offering like $1,000 sign-on bonuses, and then the talkative guy who was driving the van after he left her off, he was saying, "There's that steel mill near you." And there is this remains, because steel's back, in production. People don't realize that until they close that down, because that requires carbon-based fuels to forge steel, basically to melt, and do all that, smelters and all of those things. You don't do that with solar power, right? But you go, and that steel mill near you is offering like $1,500 sign-on bonuses and stuff like that. And I know we talked about this a long time ago, but that's the thing but let's keep it in the medical profession. So it's like they can't even find nurses and nurses' assistants and people like that who want to work, let alone people who want to I was going to even ask there was some woman who was mopping the floors while I was just laying there. This place they sent me to was like this. I mean, I don't know. It could be a bigger place, but it was it just seemed like I was in some side. It was like a mini hospital or something weird like that. I don't know. It was weird. It Just seemed like I was on some side room. I don't know. It was strange. It's weird. I was going to ask the lady who was mopping up the floor how much she got paid just out of curiosity and, for the sake of sharing it. But I didn't want to ask her. She didn't look like she wanted to talk. But I bet she gets paid a lot because nobody wants to do it. But anyway, so it starts at age 40 where you start, your eyesight goes. Human beings, all right? And so you got to get reading glasses, right? Which is interesting. But what's a funny thing about this? Since I'm into this babble, do you know that if there's an ant or something weird like that, that despite the fact as you age, your eyesight diminishes, right, with small things? Do you ever notice how you can see the most minuscule type of bug or something like that? You ever notice that? It's like because your brain, is programmed, I guess, to avoid these things or, for health, whatever reasons, or it's somehow wired that way. But if you take the size of that bug and the size of the type, if it was a word, you couldn't, if it was a word the size of a red ant, one of those tiny baby red ants, if it was a word the size of that thing, you couldn't make it out, but you could completely make out the ant. Now, partially your brain is putting together its image, we know that from people that study that sort of thing. I've studied it a long time ago. That your brain does piece together things. It's the shortcut. It's like when you extend your arm and you touch things or do things. In other words, what happens is your brain, there's a little bit of predictive behavior involved in there. Because the idea of the nerve getting the information to and fro to the brain at that instant, that snap speed, isn't really possible, according to modern physics. I mean, that's if you believe in modern physics. But so what happens is your brain kind of figures out what you're trying to do and fills in the blanks. But at the same token, that's how we read when we're reading words and stuff. The brain also does that stuff, so it kind of makes out that that's a THE, right, or whatever. So it completes that. But I think that's why people end up getting like headaches and stuff around that age, because they're squinting their eyes or their brain is going through this double time to read. And it's like time to get reading glasses or go to an eye doctor. Well, I've been unable to go to an eye doctor because these are prescription reading glasses, but they're like 20 years old. And so I know, number one, I need that. This is like room temperature coffee right now. Man, stinks. But it's the official ROCKFLUX mug, which no one's bought. Support the guy. He's going to the hospital every 3 weeks. Give a guy help me get rid of bugs and fix things. Peace of mind. I could walk. Get me a walker. Do you want a walker? That's what they said when I asked to use the bathroom. Because I was like, putting my hands out like this, trying to get it to the bathroom while I was waiting for these test results. I was literally at the hospital for like 8 hours yesterday. I mean, in either en route or returning. I think I left here something like 4-ish, and I didn't get back till noonish. Peter noonish. 8 frickin' hours and then I have to, beg a friend to go pick up a prescription because there's no way I could walk there. And the pill they gave me at the hospital was wearing off, like I say. And not that these things are any miracle drug. This is barely, it basically just kind of semi-stabilizes me. So anyway, I hope it's just some inner ear thing. Eustachian tube maybe, or something weird like that. I don't know. There's all kinds of things. Like I could have a virus inside my head, inner ear or something. But I don't have an earache really or anything. That's the weird thing. And my teeth even haven't been bothering me. Knock on jaw in a while. So I don't know, man. So where's House when you need him? Where's House's team? And, with this, like I say, if everybody's focused on one thing as if it's like the plague, then what about people who are, and me, like I say, hopefully, I'll get through this thing and it'll just be one of those other medical mysteries that I've had over the course of my life and a lot of people have, right? Hopefully. Actually. But, and if it's not, then I just die or keel over. But what about the people with like real, even worse things, assuming that what I have isn't anything that serious? Well, they basically closed the inn last night, for anybody. Nobody was allowed to go to the local hospital because the inn was full. Right? And, and it's because people are watching this stuff. I was in the waiting room for they kicked me out of the ER. They said, if you're going to get picked up, you can't stay in this room. We got to because we were too busy. You got to go out to the waiting room to wait. And so I was in the waiting room for a few minutes and they had a TV on and was one of these daytime TV talk shows. And they had Shania Twain on. And they even were asking her she was in some kind of quarantine up in Canada and her tour dates were canceled because of it. That was while I was there. But then I couldn't stand it. There were a couple of people there, and they were watching this thing. So I just went outside and waited outside on a bench. Fortunately, it was summertime. Do you know what I mean? I was so glad that I could just get out of there. But the guy picking me up was a half hour late. And so I was sitting out there on just this metal bench, sick, waiting for a med van to take me home, pretty crazy. But, but what about all these other people who've got actual problems, right? So if they can't go to the emergency room, where do they go? This is this hospital serves a pretty big area, not only the city area, I live out on the outskirts of town, but not only the city area and the outskirts, but also the surrounding, rural areas. And then, of course, the next hospital would. So, you're talking, a lot of people. And so, they got people going in there, and I guess the family doctors are just closing down. Or don't want to see these people or something like that. So people aren't going to their physician. Instead, they're going to And then the hospitals aren't doing treatments, right? I was watching this guy talk. The guy who, I don't know if it was Tattoo. Anybody who watches this show knows who Tattoo is. Tattoo's got videos up on YouTube. Tattoo. I think he is going just by Tattoo, the regular spelling now. You never know. He's got 1 million channels, I think. But I think he forwarded me a video. The guy who treated... guy was on a teleconference with some rabbinical council in Israel. I don't know, something like that. And the guy who who they were interviewing or was talking to them was the guy who originally treated Trump, Giuliani, and all those people. Remember, they all got the thing, and then they were, within 24, 48 hours, they were cured, right? And he was the guy who did that. And without getting into this kind of stuff, because I don't know how these channels get away with putting that stuff up. If I just allude to it, they take the video down. But, you know, he was explaining to these guys in detail. And it was pretty shocking, you know. And so here you have a guy who basically is saying, yeah, and he rattled off a bunch of other names. But, you know, we all know from the public, you know, those high-profile people that were treated and instantly somehow were cured. All right? You know, but I know there's a lot of people out there, yeah, well, it was faking. They were fake. It's like, no, he rattled off a bunch of other names. They were both they were all from all sorts of political and different walks of life. It wasn't just that. Those are just the two prominent names I remember him saying. So it just makes you wonder. It's like, you know, okay, so here's this guy that, you know, apparently has something, you know, that he can do. Well, why hasn't that proliferated the world? And why isn't everybody just doing whatever that treatment is? You know? It's very puzzling and very unusual. You know, it defies logic. That's what I'm saying. What's going on right now just defies logic. And the only, you know, it's like when you rule out every other possibility, right? Then whatever's left is, you know, is the most likely, right? The Occam's razor thing. And it just boils down to these people are downright evil. Because if you're not going to, if you have the ability, right, to cure a thing, then why have we putting people through this torment, you know, for 2 years? See the latest thing that came out from in the Washington Post? I saw that. Did you see that one? The Washington Post published this article. I mean, it's so weird, you know, how they tried. It's like there must still be at the Times and the Post, like, because when I worked at Columbia, I worked with all the journalists, because they don't publish a daily newspaper up there anymore. I mean, it's everything's digital. But we used to do a print edition in the city of New York. All right. And, you know, it was a very good paper, and these were Columbia's journalism, you know, it was one of the best journalism schools, right? And, you know, all those people, they were incredible, right? And so you've got a lot of these, you know, these Ivy League journalist graduates who are down, who get the jobs for the Times and the Post. All right, that's who's working there. These aren't just some, you know, somebody, you know, just your run of the mill writer, you know, wordsmith. All right, these are people who are trained in journalism. You know, okay, they understand it, the ins and outs and investigation and everything. And so sometimes you see these articles, right? And like I say, I'm no avid reader of these things anymore because there's just too much bull crap out there. That's why I cut the cord with TV. But there was this article in the Post that appeared, I don't know, yesterday or recently, within the past week or so. And I'm not going to get into all the details of it because it's like the Post can get away with publishing it, but they were like, you know, kind of just dancing around it. But you could tell that whoever wrote it, and I forget who wrote it, was a professional, really had, you know, the skills and was a professional journalist, was like really did. So they did their research and they had the story, but it was as if it was tinkered with by the editorial staff or board, or that person themselves was like trying to dance around certain things. So they would make a statement that was like, wow, that's ridiculous. But then they would like follow it up with something saying, but there's still, still some unanswered questions. In other words, every time they would there would be a eureka moment, right? Or like so-called. In fact, I even think they used it. They said this is no smoking gun. They might have even used that term in there. Well, this isn't a smoking gun. But the idea was, no, there was about 17 smoking guns in there. And if you remember a show I did a long time ago where I was explaining about Event 201, because that happened around September of 2019 or something. It was in the fall of 2019. Well, anyway, this Washington Post article, which you could research and look up, I'm not, this is real, was saying that China, this thing was released, and that, this investigative reporter and naming other sources, including the WHO and et cetera, had found that China knew about this thing dating back that long ago. And this was in the Washington Post. And you could go investigate that. So I'm not making something up. I'm not playing a game here. This is reality. You could go read the Washington Post. And I'm just giving you, pointing you to that, okay? Attention, terms of service, people. All right, I'm telling my viewers to go read the Washington Post, read that article. It's an interesting article on the thing. I just happen to think they were dancing around in some areas, but even in the areas the way they danced around, it still came off with an very interesting conclusion. You cannot have read that article and not walk away from the idea that this thing, that what we were told, it was not. That the public narrative, the given narrative is has been exposed as a fraud. In other words, they knew about this much earlier, and they withheld that information. That's the Washington Post. Read the article. And so, and then you had that Event 201 around the same time, so it almost puts a different light on that whole story, that maybe that Event 201 was rushed together. Maybe that was an emergency meeting, because it was so ridiculous that it was exactly what they were talking about in the, and I don't know if those videos still exist. There were clips from the actual Event 201 that were floating around for the longest time. The actual, and pictures of like video of the people sitting at tables and what they were saying. And it was exactly about this thing. And so, yeah, maybe those people were like rushed in because they knew, and, and it's funny. And it's like, because I had said before, we have satellites. We're constantly looking at places like China and stuff like that to see if there's any kind of weird stuff. And one of the things that they had uncovered investigative journalistically, is that there was this crazy activity in the Wuhan area, but around, and in the hospitals and stuff around there, like months earlier than it was reported. And and the guy went on and made this whole case. And if this would have been a few years ago, in a different time when we weren't living in this like crazy censored world, that would have been, he wouldn't have been going back and forth trying to like mince words. That would have been a true Pulitzer article, expose, type of thing. It's just interesting stuff, But yeah, because of all this craziness that's going on, whatever the case may be, who knows? We're stuck with this, hospitals being filled again, and doctors and teams being sidetracked, people not wanting to be nurses or work there, And so how many people with serious ailments are being just like, you know, bring him in, bring him out, give him a test and let him go. Right? Go get follow-up with your family physician. Instead of the whole reason why someone ends up at a hospital is the idea that you need intensive care. That's a word, you know, people don't think about. Intensive care. Right? The emergency room. And so I got anything but intensive care yesterday. You know, it was like, it was nothing. It was, you know, it was like those places they have, you know, like they propped up all over the place. They're like these, I don't forget there's a name for them, or that maybe they have different names in different areas. But they're places where people could go, you know, if they have a cold or something like that, you know. They're not hospitals, but they're like just medical room. You go in, there's a big waiting room. It's like a doctor's office if you don't have a doctor or something like that. You know what I'm talking about? Whatever those places are called. Some kind of care centers or something. And that's where people should be going, but apparently people aren't even going to those. Or maybe they're filled too. So, yeah, there was no room at the inn, so to speak. And so you get, you know, mediocre care. Because of this thing that, like I say, there's this guy who treated these other people who apparently we all know and we've seen on TV, you know, we've seen in the news, that there are multiple treatments and stuff like that. But why? So why is this thing just going on and on and on? And why are people like me being, you know, so then I become a victim because I can't get care for something that has nothing to do with that thing. And what about other people who really need care? You know, like I say, if you look at the CDC list, which, you know, I guess I could call this image of the day. Hold on a second here. Properties, browse, because I still have this stuff. Let's see. Slow responding. I haven't shown this in a while, but since this is a medical show, let's see. Where is it? Come on. It's not that. It's annoying. I'll find it. I got to find this because I want to show you this daily slide. It's got to be in here. Because I talked about it, so I got to show it, and I know I have it. Just can't remember I can't remember the names of all these things. You have no idea how many. Here it is. How many slides I've had. So let's get rid of the title card temporarily. I don't know what that. Oh, that's that. And let's bring this thing over. Number for leading causes of death. Leading cause of death. This is from the CDC website. Okay. And so let's shrink that just to 10. So you can see most of everything here. And then she accidentally got moved over too far. Put her right there. All right. So what I'm trying to get at is that, you know, and then we've talked about this one before. But, you know, look at this is old too. You know, they're not really updating. That's another thing that's really annoying. They don't update these things. So this is like 2019, you know, this is like leading up. You know, so they intentionally don't, you know, and you know these numbers have all increased greatly. But the leading cause of death in this country is still heart disease. 659,000 people a year. That's every frickin' year. And cancer is like 599,601. So it's 600,000 basically a year, which is about the same amount from the thing or something they're saying over a year and a half or something, however long it was. But that's just this one thing, one time. This is every year. That many people are dying of cancer. More than that many people are dying of heart disease. And when you add in things down here like stroke, right, and diabetes and lower respiratory diseases and this, whatever, this nephritis, nephrotic syndrome, nephrosis, and whatever, I mean, 50-some thousand people die of influenza and pneumonia every year. Always have. That was 2 years ago before this thing, right? And like I say, all these numbers have gone up because the population goes up and people are, and then there are complications from this thing that just even make it higher. So if somebody, is having some kind of chronic lower respiratory disease, that's 156,000, 157,000 people. Well, if you add that, because this attacks your respiratory system, right? So if you add that to influenza and pneumonia, you're like 200,000 right there, right? And it's the same with like the stroke, thing. That's kind of almost tied in with heart disease type of thing, blood being cut off to the heart or to the brain and blah, 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 So when you say heart attack and stroke or heart disease and stroke, you're looking at like 750,000 people a year. And when you're talking like chronic lower respiratory diseases and pneumonia and influenza, which are kind of semi-tied together, that's like, 200,000 people a year. So between those two alone, that's 1 million a year. You add on cancer and these other things. I mean, there's a couple million people a year are dying of all kinds of diseases. Every year, like I was saying about that, I was talking about, when we talked about homicides and missing people, how those numbers added up to like tens of millions of people over decades. Well, if you look at this kind of list here, you're talking about, a couple of million people a year dying. And so in a decade, a couple of million, it's like 20 million people. These are really big frickin' numbers. These are, it's like the whole Afghanistan thing I was trying to talk about. You're talking about in the time we were in Afghanistan, maybe, 40 or 50 million people in this country died of, of the leading causes of death. Many of these things preventable. In fact, all of them really kind of somewhat treatable and perhaps preventable if we would, if our focus would be on preventing these types of things and researching them, and early treatment and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm saying, where's House when you need them? Where's the teams and the focus on on things like that? Things that are killing a couple of million people a year, every frickin' year. And now those people are being treated in the hospital like, okay, yeah. Go see your family doctor. Follow up with your family physician. And the rest of the people are like all into this thing which has come to the forefront over top of stuff that's killing a couple million people a year. Remember, it's not case numbers, it's fatality, that type of thing. And, whether or not a person, and factors of age and comorbidities and all that kind of stuff. These are those things there. These are the comorbidities. You see? This is what people are really dying from. But this is a list prior to the thing that they don't want you talking about. These are the comorbidities. And there's actually even more than that. Because that, So, yeah, where's House and his team when you need them? They don't seem to be around. You know, maybe in certain major hospitals down at Johns Hopkins and the Mayo Clinic and stuff, but it's like, who knows? You know, Columbia Presbyterian, when I used to work for Columbia, you know, that was a really good hospital. Although at that time, the only time I ever had to use it is I cut my finger with an X-Acto blade once and had to get it cauterized. But because I had like free health care working for the university at that hospital. So I don't know, man. You know, it's kind of crazy. And having gone through it and still going through it, you know, because there were no conclusions made with me over the past month even, that it's very frustrating, you know. And there doesn't seem to be anyone who's really... Like, is there any end to this? Is there anybody on our side? I mean, there are all these videos and people talking, but they're just talking heads, just like talking heads on TV. You know, and politicians and the corporatocracy. Everybody's talking and talking, but nobody's acting. Right? Nobody's acting. Diagnosing. Where's the house type of people? Right? So it's useless, you know. I mean, like I say, you know, friends of mine will forward you to a video, and sometimes it's an interesting thing. Like I say, the one I just told you about, the Israeli video, and some of these other ones, you know, it's like they're real eye-openers. But it's just another video. Do you see? And it's no different than TV, because it's point counterpoint, you know, but when you go in the system yourself, like I say, like I've experienced over the past just less than a month, 2 different times entering into it, I've found that there's like, it's totally different. It's out of control. It's completely different than it was like 2 years ago. There just doesn't, everybody's just in a fog, you know, themselves. And you don't really get treatment. You don't really, you know, there isn't that, you know, they don't seem to be involved or care. You know, that's the other thing. It's like care. Like the thing I noticed most about yesterday is like everyone was like nonchalant, you know. I had 2 different, the reason I went there so early in the morning that the ER attending physician, so to speak, you know, who first saw me left because his shift was over halfway through my being there, and then a new one came on. So I technically, in one way, you would think was lucky. I had 2 different physicians looking at me, okay? You know, which the more the better is what I'm trying to say. It's like house's team type of thing. But like, and the same with the nurses. The nurses, you know, went off shift. You know, the shift changed around 7 or something weird like that. And I was there got in there 4 or 5, and I was there till noon. So I was there for 2 different shifts. But they were just like going through the motions. Because I guess this thing is just like overwhelming them. And, you know, so what about people with all these other, you know, other things? You know, like I say, whatever the heck, nephrotic syndrome, nephrosis, nephritis, I mean, you know, whatever. I don't know, 51,000 people dying of that stuff. You know? Chronic lower respiratory diseases, 156,000 frickin' people. And, you know, and let's not forget, look at accidents, 173,000 people. Intentional self-harm, 47. And, you know, there's something like 6 million car crashes a year, by the way. So this is like, when they say accidents, unintentional injuries, 173,000 people die. That's the people that died from. That doesn't include the person that's basically crippled, lost their limbs, their eyesight. Right? You know, it's like millions of people are injured and millions of people go into the hospital for those kinds of things. See, sometimes that's another thing. It's like as bad as people, see, the CDC doesn't do the case count, you know, with that, but they do the case count with the thing, right? So if I'm saying this is a couple million people, these are a couple million people every year that are dying. But the amount of people that present themselves to emergency rooms or doctors or whatever every year is in the tens of millions a year or more. No, tens of millions, I'm sure. There must be some statistic about that floating around. So yeah, it's pretty sad and pathetic. And like I say, this is a brutally honest show. I'm admitting, firsthand to you my experience directly. And I'm saying it's, there's nothing more frustrating than going, having a problem, going to a hospital, going to an emergency room, spending 8 hours there, having them send you off and maybe get you a prescription, and the prescription is not a cure. And they go say, well, see, return to some place, but the local place is closed. So return to some place that's a half hour away when you don't even drive or something. And your local doctor is like, not only seeing patients once a week or something, because I guess they're fed up with this whole thing and they don't want to deal with it. I mean, that's I'm guessing. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. I haven't seen their their office is right next door to me where I live. And I haven't seen a car there in 2 weeks. Well, Tuesday, the doctor was there. So don't get sick on any other day than a Tuesday. But I think the Tuesday prior, the week prior, they were on vacation. They didn't even show up. There wasn't anybody there. So you can't, this thing is just totally destroyed. So I don't know what the real death numbers are on the other side. See, that's the thing. If a couple of million people are dying a year of those things that I put up here, okay, which is CDC's, that's from the CDC. That's still up there on the CDC site. If a couple of million people are dying from that every year, how many people died last year from those things? How did those numbers way increase? Because those people aren't getting care. Right? There's no room at the inn. Right? We're not taking it. Imagine that. I couldn't believe she said that. I said, the woman in the ambulance. We can't take you, to the local hospital. They're not accepting any patients, anybody. Imagine that. And at the same token, there's these videos and this guy's talking about I'm the guy who gave the treatment and to all these high profile, visible people that and I know that got it and, got cured by this guy, this doctor in 48 hours. And it's like, come on. Why, so why would over a year and a half later, we still be dealing with this? I don't care about changes and stuff. This guy was saying it's the same, treatments. So I don't know. The whole thing's wacky. And, in the grand scheme of things, in the end of all this, when it all, if it ever does end, we're probably going to find out that there's going to be more people have died from other causes than this thing, on the magnitude of maybe 1 million people, at least. Because if you can't get care for a stroke, if you present yourself with like a problem like I did, right, which who knows what's going on, right? So these people who are trying to get to the emergency room for a stroke, heart disease, cancer, different things like that, right? And they're being turned away for somebody, So think about it. It's really pathetic. Or those other things, whatever, I can't even pronounce them, that people that are killing, kill 50,000 people a year, and lower respiratory things killing 173,000, whatever it was, a year. You know what I mean? All this stuff. Not to mention car accident victims and all that other stuff. You know, drug overdoses. You know, household accidents. Somebody breaks a leg and arm. Imagine that. Imagine if you like broke your leg and you couldn't go to a hospital, which is in an ambulance and get there in like 10 or 15 minutes or something. Instead, the ambulance said, oh yeah, the nearest place is like, half hour, 45 minutes away or something. And you're like with this broken bone, in an ambulance for 45 frickin' minutes. And they, in the ambulances, they won't give you like pain killers and stuff. Cause like when I went like I said, I've had my experience in the medical thing. I've been in them a few times, so I know what I'm talking about. And I was once wreathing in pain. I told that story on a different video once. There's no need to get into it. And they would not give me anything, and they would not even give me anything when I got into the ER. This is like a couple of years ago. Until they got, some like results back from some test or something, because they didn't want to give me any kind of pain. And so you're like wreathing for an hour in pain. It's the year 2021. It's like I said to one of the nurses yesterday. I said, because when she was putting on those stupid sticker things that pull the hair off of your body, to give you an EKG and stuff like that, and she said, you'd think by now they'd come up with a better way or a better thing to do this. And I'm like, yeah, like in Star Trek or something. I said, it's the year 2021, and she laughed, but laughed approvingly. And that's what I mean, when I say, where's House when you need him? But also, like, where's our technology, the big tech? See, the problem is that, and, this is a ramble, and it's amazing I can keep rambling about it. But I've talked about this before, too, but in a different context. There's such a focus right now by the big tech companies on certain areas, right? What are the coders working on? The things that bring them the highest profit, right? Coders are working on banking, algorithms, so-called AI type of stuff, gaming, right? New gaming things, new iPhones, right? A FaceTime app that you could all listen to the same song or watch the same movie together, right? At the same time. This is what the most brilliant computer science, computer minds, coders are working on. And so they're all worrying about trying to do this. And of course, Apple's response would be, well, we have in the Apple Watch, we can take your pulse and check your temperature or whatever. Look, you could go to the hospital, or you could already buy. I did it once live on this show. I have a home. I could take my blood pressure, my temperature, and heart rate at home, before they ever made an Apple Watch with simple little things, and they're all digital. Now, screw that. Where's the Star Trek bed that Bones put you in Star Trek? Well, that's not happening because all the focus by all the people that could do that kind of thing, right? They're all making FaceTime and, and new apps that do stupid things, silly human entertainment things, right? It's like, making some, imagine the amount of, how many people it takes and like the efforts in the creating these CGI computers to make these like cartoony movies and stuff like that, and the CGI effects in these blockbuster films. That's like real high tech, and that's big money, right? But that's the problem. All the minds, right, are focused on that, and they're not focused on medicine and helping humanity and just people, right? And so we have a very primitive system when you think about it. You know, the ER, how much has the ER really changed in the past 20, 30 years? I mean, some of the machines are a little more advanced, but it's basically the same thing. They prod and poke your arm and put some IV thing there. They hook you up with these sticky things that are impossible to take off to give you an EKG, and you lay there in a bed and this monitors your heart rate and whatever. Not an EKG, whatever, the heart monitors and stuff. Sometimes you get the EKG, they just come in quick, do that, and then they're out of there. But I mean, it's the same thing, and it's the same with X-rays, chest X-rays. Even some of these more modern hospitals, you go in and you could see those machines. They look like they were made in the 70s, you know, and repainted or something. They got like thick ivory-colored paint on them or something. And it's like they would love to give you X-rays and CT scans with these mega doses of radiation, but like they argue with you, and it's a big fight to get a MRI, which is the magnetic, using magnetism instead of radiation. You know, that's like, well, we got to, in order to do that, we have to call your insurance company, deal with this and do that. Well, I'm like, call them, you know. But I guess they don't answer the phone at 4 or 5 in the morning. So instead, it's like, if you want something done, let's just give your brain a heavy dose of radiation. It's a thick skull, right? So it's a super heavy dose of radiation to break through your skull. So you're basically like, you know, turned into some superhero, if you're lucky. Otherwise, you end up with a brain tumor from too many CT scans, X-rays, or, whatever. And they always try to down talk the radiation. Though I've talked to other doctors who said, man, you should not have that many of these things. Right? But I don't know, man. It's really weird. So nothing's going to change. It's like I talk about all the time. You know, this is the new dynamic, the paradigm shift. You know, and I guess we can accept the fact that, like I said before, when you rule out all other possibilities, you're left the obvious, whatever's left over is the obvious answer. And the obvious answer is that these people are just evil, right? They don't care, but it's beyond not caring. They're downright evil, right? Because they're just going, it's beyond greed, right? And money. You know, it's evil. It's evil. You know, but it's partially the people's fault too, because the people keep allowing this to happen. They'll watch their sci-fi movies and they'll see all this modern, in the future tech, right? You know, it doesn't matter what you watch, any futuristic, anything that takes place anytime in the future, movies, whether they were made in the 60s or the 70s or they were made last year, always shows medicine is advanced, right? But like I say, the only advancement is like in CGI and algorithms and apps and gaming, right? They're not putting, the effort is not being put in, the technology is not being put into hospitals. ERs are basically the same, almost the same as they've always looked. It should, it's the year 2021. That's the part. Am I the only guy that like sees this? I mean, like I say, I always talk about all the time about this. Yeah, I guess if you were born in 2000 and you're 21, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you were born, if you're older than that, you're going like, come on, man, this is the frickin' future. Watch the movie 2001 that was made in the 60s. And we're 20 years beyond 2001, and look at the tech they had. I mean, that's where science fiction was, but science reality was. There's no reason that in the year 2021 we should be dealing with such a primitive medical system. No reason whatsoever. Other than pure evil. Like I say, it's Occam's razor, man. There's no other explanation for it. You know, and it's very frustrating. You know, so me, I'm going to go back to bed probably and just lay in bed and hope that I live. Because it's a Friday and it's a weekend and there's no room at the local hospital and my doctor's not going to come in till Tuesday. And besides, he's not going to say, he's going to say, well, I don't know, maybe you should get some more tests. And there'll be no room at the inn, so they won't be giving out tests. I don't know. Where's House when you need him? So, what can I say? Very frustrating.
Good morning.
You know, give a guy a helping hand. Go to TonyCaravanLive.com, buy a shirt or buy something, or go to my locals, TonyCaravanLive.locals.com. I think there's a way you could like donate there, even in Bitcoin or something. Do something. Support the show. Support a guy who's probably on his deathbed. Yeah, I know. It's not funny, but, you know. It's a sad state of affairs what's going on right now in this country. Anyway, best of luck. Have a good weekend. I don't know if I'll do a show every day.